When you're buying something new, you want to make sure it's worth your money. Here at Which, we put thousands of products to the test every single year and give you the results so you can make informed choices. So to ensure you're buying the right product for you, why not get yourself a Which Full Access annual subscription for half the usual price? Right now you can get 50% off the usual price for a Which Full Access subscription, which gives you access to all of our product reviews, as well as access to the Ask Which service, where you can chat to us online for personalised one-to-one buying advice on any product we've tested. Not only that, but you'll also be able to use the Which app, and you'll get the Which magazine delivered direct to your door every month. So, to get a Which Full Access annual subscription for just £49.50, just head to join.which.co.uk. That's join.which.co.uk for 50% off the usual price. Offer ends on the 31st of July.
When life gives you questions, Which? Get answers.
Welcome to the Which Money Podcast, your weekly hit of money news and personal finance hacks to help make you better off. I'm your host, Lucia Ariano, and here's what's coming up this week.
By paying off your credit card in full every single month and kind of showing the lender that you are very responsible with your money, that is one of actually the best and most powerful ways to improve your credit score, which obviously can help you with things down the line in terms of, financial products that you want in return. So mortgages, car finance schemes, make you look more reliable.
So there's quite a lot of perks there. So American Express added them all up, and they put that at about £2,500. But to be honest, I would take this figure with a large pinch of salt.
This week on the podcast, we'll be discussing everything you need to know to give your credit cards a health check. Whether you're a seasoned credit card user or you're new to the game, this is the podcast guide to help you find the best credit cards out there for you right now. From the top deals across the different types of credit cards to the all bells and whistles reward card that would set you back a huge £650. And to help us along the way, we're joined by Which Money senior writer Grace Witherden and Gabriel Nussbaum, who you might know as That Money Guy on TikTok and Instagram. Hello both.
Hi.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us. We've got a lot to get through today. Can we start from the top though? Grace, maybe you could take this one. There are loads of different types of credit cards. Can you just talk us through some of the examples to begin with?
Yeah, there's quite a few. And before I started this job, I just thought that you'd have a credit card for everything. I never knew there were different types.
Same.
So yeah, some really popular credit cards are like cashback and reward credit cards. So this is where you might get paid cashback on your spending with the credit card, or get reward points like Nectar points, American Express points, or Air Miles. We have interest-free spending credit cards where you'll get an interest-free period on the credit card. So let's just say you're making a big purchase like a sofa, put that on the card. As long as you pay off the minimum repayment each month, you won't incur any interest for that set period of time. We have balance transfer credit cards, which is when you shift the debt from one card to another card to avoid the interest you might be paying on your existing card. And then we also have credit cards that are tailored for spending abroad because you won't be charged any fees. And there are some other niche cards like money transfer credit cards. This is similar to a balance transfer. You're transferring a balance to avoid interest, but you get that as cash in your bank, in your current account. So you could use it to pay off an overdraft or something. So rather than going from one credit card to the next, it's going, you're putting a balance on a credit card, but you're getting that balance in cash.
So that's a quick intro to the kinds of cards out there, and we'll of course be diving into each of those later on throughout the show. Gabriel, what's your advice for working out which type of card is right for you?
So I think that one thing that a lot of people often think is they need to find the right one out of that selection. So is it a rewards card? Is it a travel card? What's the right card? The truth is you can have several. And I think they were really well described. So obviously listen to the description of each one of those. And that's a really simple guide. Once you've heard the right description of a card, you can then go on loads of comparison websites and look up the best cards at that point in time and check out, the top 3, let's say, for the category that you're looking for, and dive into that. Obviously, there's a few other kind of stipulations and things you should be aware of prior to even getting a credit card in the first place to make sure it's right for you. But I think we'll probably dive into those a little bit later in the show.
Of course. And is there something also in, when is the right time?
Yeah. So there are both kind of like very practical advice here. So you have to be over the age of 18 for most cards, over 21 for some cards. And a lot do require you to be earning a salary of some kind. A lot of people think that they're kind of fun, a bit of free money. I've got a new credit limit. I've basically, increasing my monthly cash flow. But the truth is that unless you are very sure that you can pay it off in full every month, until you get to that point where you're confident of that, it probably isn't the right time for you to start switching over to credit cards. Now, there are some credit cards that are made for other reasons. You spoke about 0% and balance transfers and all those kinds. But if you're looking at kind of the reward, the travel ones, the more fun credit cards, then maybe make sure that that's set first before jumping into credit cards.
Can we talk a little bit about some of the benefits then of owning a credit card? So the first one that's coming to my mind, Section 75. Grace, do you want to start us off with this?
Yeah, so as I sort of alluded to earlier, Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act basically means that the credit card company is jointly and severally liable for any breach of contract. So that means we often hear about this if a company goes into administration or something like that. You might say, oh, did you pay on your credit card? Because if you have, if the value of the item is worth over £100, you can make a Section 75 claim. And that means that it's much easier. Some of these cases, it's so much easier to get your money back from your credit card provider than it is with an airline. One example, definitely is like in the pandemic where everyone, my boyfriend had like flights booked, company, he never heard from that company again. But basically because he had paid for it on his credit card, he was with Tesco Bank and they're really good and he got his money back, and he didn't have to worry about arguing it with this company. So sometimes it's just sometimes in my head, if I'm ever making like a really big purchase, like gig tickets, holiday, just something of like high value, I'll always put that on my credit card and I have the money for it, but I'm just paying with my credit card so that I have that like extra legal protection. There is, debit cards do have protection. You can use chargeback, but the Section 75, you usually get a longer period to make a claim than you do with chargeback. So that's why it's sort of like a better, I would say it's a better protection to use.
There are lots of intricacies, aren't there, to Section 75? And we did do a full episode on it. I think that was early last year, actually.
Yeah.
But, it will all still stand. Am I right?
It will all stand. There's definitely some things you need to be aware of, like the primary cardholder always has to benefit from that transaction. And there are a few more loopholes like this, which is why it's actually really, really good advice to listen back to that episode if you're worried, because we have actually had some Which members call us up before, and we did actually have a case where the wife had used her husband's credit card for her holiday, and because the husband wasn't going on the holiday as well and something happened with the provider, she couldn't actually make a claim because the card was in his name and he wasn't actually going on that trip. So that's why it's important to like sort of know all of these things before you make the purchase, because you hear like, oh, Section 75, I'm covered, but there are like some loopholes.
Yeah, I think my favorite loophole in it, and I think it still stands, is that the range of things, like the price of the item you have to buy is between £100,000 and £30,000. But I'm fairly certain that you don't have to have the entire amount of that purchase on the card. It just has to be literally £1 of the purchase. So if you're buying something for £29,999 and you want to do it all on your debit account because that's the person you are, but £1 on your credit, you get the consumer protection, which is a great hack. I don't know anyone who's been in that scenario. I'd love to hear if they have been, but that's kind of a nice way to explain it.
I'd love to be in the position to be buying something for 29,000, whatever that figure was you gave, but no, it's a great
in your
loophole.
Account to just send out there.
Well, before we touch on the benefits you can get from reward cards and all the other, top deals that we're going to be mentioning today, is there anything else you'd like to mention in terms of the benefits that all credit cards offer? Gabriel? Yeah,
so I think the main one that people hopefully are aware of is improving your credit score. So by paying off your credit card in full every single month, and kind of showing the lender that you are very responsible with your money. That is one of actually the best and most powerful ways to improve your credit score, which obviously can help you with things down the line in terms of, financial products that you want in return. So mortgages, car finance schemes, make you look more reliable.
Also, I will add that a credit builder credit card is one of the credit cards I missed off my earlier.
There you go. There's literally a credit card just to improve your credit score. You can get
credit cards just for people that don't have good credit or good score. They can get a card that will help them improve their score.
Yeah.
So it might be very high interest rates, but the point of it is you're paying it back. You're using it and you're paying it back every month. So they're made for improving your credit score.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to stop shifting all of your purchases onto that credit card. You could literally put, let's say, one recurring expense on that credit card, and you're just looking trustworthy in the eyes of the lender. Another thing to note about your credit score as well is that you don't really want to be using your entire limit. So basically the full amount that they are offering you. So let's say you get £1,000 on your credit card that you can use. The kind of golden number is to aim around, 20-30% per month, ideally, to really show that you're responsible. You don't need to push right to the max of that credit limit. There are a few other ones. So for example, in the cases of like fraud, credit cards being stolen, they are really, really easy kind of tools to basically get your money back. You call them up, you freeze it. They have to actually prove that if they think that you're lying, basically, they have to prove that you're lying rather than you have to prove that you're telling the truth, which is quite a nice one. And then the other one, which a lot of people aren't really aware of. So for example, with my American Express cards in the app, aside from the perks they kind of advertise when you're getting the card, you actually get loads of offers. So you can get like 20% off this brand or 30% off this brand, or, £10 back with, X, Y, and Z that aren't really advertised. They're just kind of in the app. And that's kind of like a bit of an unknown benefit that a lot of credit cards do have, that you only find out once you've got the credit card.
I do find that with American Express, like, I was in the O2 a few weeks ago, and because I had an American Express, I got 10% off at the bar. But I feel like because American Express is actually quite a big provider, they often have these like hidden perks where you might get like early gig early entry to get like a ticket, or they have a lot of lounges. There's always like these. I mean, they probably do advertise them, but it feels a bit hidden, and that you're a card member with them, so you get a few extra perks with them.
Yeah, bit of a little secret benefit on the side.
Well, we've gone through the basics and more, and I'm definitely itching to get into the best credit cards. So after a quick break, we'll be back with the best cards on the market right now, including one that costs a massive £650, but comes with heaps of benefits. So could it be worth it? All this next.
If you're enjoying this Which podcast, then you might also be interested in listening to other podcasts that we have to offer, like Which Shorts. Which Shorts is our weekly podcast that brings you a flavour of what the Which magazine has to offer, as well as our dedicated travel, gardening and tech magazines too. Each week we handpick a review, investigation or feature that was printed in one of our magazines and written by one of our award-winning writers. We then bring it to life on the podcast. So, to get a taster of what Which members get in our suite of magazines, be sure to listen to Which Shorts wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Which Money podcast. Now, before we get back to the show, let me remind you about the new series we've launched here on the podcast feed. It's called Which Money Shorts, and each fortnight we're giving you a sneak peek inside the Which Money magazine. Our brilliant team of journalists work all year round to bring Which Money subscribers reviews, investigations and features in the bi-monthly magazine. So far in the series, we've covered investing, paying for later life care and fraud, and over the coming weeks we'll be looking at equity release and pensions. So do keep an eye on this feed every other Monday. So what cards are out there now that are worth talking about? So one that we haven't mentioned before on the show, possibly ever, I think, or at least not in detail, is the American Express Platinum card. Now, I wanted to start with this one because it is quite out there, isn't it? It would set you back £650. But Grace, I know you've been looking into its array of perks to see if it could be worth it. Can you talk us through?
Yeah, we tend to stay clear from sort of, this card doesn't feature in any of our sort of best guides. And we definitely haven't mentioned it on the podcast, probably because of that annual fee. But because they have improved some of the perks for a limited time, we thought it might be worth sort of outlining is this actually worth it? I thought that was like a good question that we could ask our audience.
It caught my attention.
So basically, the Platinum card has a £650 annual fee, but currently, with that, you get £400 of travel credit, 40,000 American Express points. You get travel insurance, air lounge access, £300 worth of annual dining credit, and that's split £150 worth to use in the UK and £150 worth to use abroad. And you get £100 worth of credit to use at Harvey Nichols. So there's quite a lot of perks there. So American Express added them all up, and they put that at about £2,500. So could be considered good value for the annual fee, but to be honest, I would take this figure with a large pinch of salt, because there is no guarantee that you would make full use of every single benefit. So for example, we know how you can get a great deal with travel insurance. We talk about that all the time. It might be that you can find cheaper travel insurance, or it might be that you have a package bank account which already includes travel insurance. There were some upgrades with this hotel chain, but if you're not going to go to that hotel chain, then you're not really going to benefit from those free upgrades. And I think, again, with the dining credit, there are select restaurants you can use that at. So again, if your favourite restaurant's not on there, you're sort of going out your way. And then 40,000 American Express points. So these are quite flexible, these points, because you can convert them into air miles with Avios, say, or Virgin, or you can use the points to like take money off your statement, because you can use them with select retailers. So they are quite flexible points. But again, like if it's not something you're used to using, it can take a bit of legwork to make the most of it.
What do you make of it, Gabriel?
I'm actually guilty of having had this card.
Really?
In the past. I don't have it anymore. And I think that when I did have it, it was worth it.
And the annual fee's gone up. So
and the annual fee has gone up compared to when I had it as well. And so, yeah, my thoughts are that it is a very good card for a very specific type of person. And you listed out a bunch of benefits there. And I think that kind of the overarching theme, and the reason why I pulled out in the first place, is because of travel. I happen to know that I was traveling a lot that year. So the perks, especially the things like worldwide travel insurance that it came with, using lounges in airports, something that I wasn't used to until I got this card. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's free food in it. Well, not free. I paid £650 a year for it. But I was flying like multiple times that year. So that came really in handy for me. And then at the end of that year period, I looked ahead at my next year and I went, not traveling so much this year, maybe don't need the worldwide travel insurance, don't need that perk, don't need that perk. Oh, actually, to me right now, this card probably isn't worth having anymore. And I switched down onto the free version, basically, of the card. So yeah, my thoughts are very much, if you are a travel heavy person, talking, let's say, multiple 4-5 minimum times a year you're traveling somewhere, then it could be quite fun to have access to all of those lounges and the insurance. But right now, it's not right for me. And I think it's worth doing the maths. I know you said £2,500 worth of perks, but it's the classic personal finance conundrum again of, would you have spent that £2,500 without the card in the first place?
I also do think that like £650 is so much money to have to like just pay.
Yeah, you have to fork it out first,
because it's not like, if it was, a monthly payment divided into 12, maybe it could be a bit more manageable, but like not many people have £650 to just, pay for this card. And if you did, a better use of that money would probably be like paying for your annual car insurance or something. I think there's some more things you could do with that money.
Well, with that money, you could buy a worldwide annual travel policy, and you could probably book a holiday and go out for dinner. And
you could probably buy like a lounge pass.
You could pay an entry on the I think it's only like 20 quid or so to go into most lounges.
Yeah,
so.
They're never as much as you think they're going to be. I think. So yeah, I think that. I think it's a fun idea to get it and like really making the use of all the benefits and like squeezing every penny out of that card. But for me, I do think it's a little bit unrealistic. Like, I just think, who's going to do all of that stuff?
me for a year, and then I gave up. I mean, I know someone that, like, some people get it literally because it's quite a fancy card in and of itself. It's metal.
It's silver, isn't it?
Yeah,
as well?
so you drop it and you hear a clank. So you turn around. I beg you, if that's you, do not. Not worth it just for that. I'll cut out a piece of metal and put it in your wallet. It's a much better option.
But the free option that you have now, like, just their free ones are actually really good, and you still earn the American Express points
Yes.
per pound spent. So you still accumulate them, and those points, I think those points are really flexible. So if you're able just to have a free version of the card where you can still earn American Express points and have access to American Express offers, I also think that's like a really good alternative.
So what are some of the reward cards that we recommend? What are kind of the ones sitting at the top of the table?
So for cashback, both the American Express one that I just mentioned and the premium version, which does have an annual fee, they are both Best Buys for cashback. And American Express is also a Which recommended provider, which means it has like really top customer service. We survey hundreds of credit card customers every year, and American Express is always up there. You know, if you want to be rewarded in points and not cashback, so something like Nectar points, then American Express also do a Nectar credit card, which comes at the top of our reward tables. And if we're moving on to other providers that that pay you in rewards, the John Lewis one's up there, as well as Tesco, any Tesco Bank credit card, just because you earn a good amount of club card points when you use a Tesco Bank credit card, which again, club card points can be converted to other points as well. So they're good. They're like a good, if you shop at Tesco, it's like a no-brainer. And if you shop at Sainsbury's, the American Express one's sort of a really good option as well, because you earn a good amount of points.
I think people get quite wrapped up in this world of points and companion vouchers and rewards. And often they're not as good as they seem. So like one thing that's really worth noting is like people are like, why are you getting credit card? Oh, because I get points when I spend on my credit card. Are you paying off in full every month? No. The amount of interest you're paying is probably negating the entirety amount of points that you're trying to collect.
The golden rule, if you want to get a cashback or reward or an air mile credit card, is to pay it back in full every month. Like, there's not really any point getting one if you've not got the money to do that, because the trick is sort of to put all of your usual spending on this card, the stuff you actually normally take from your debit card, on the credit card to earn as many points as possible. But then you've got that money sat in your current account that you can use to pay off the credit card at the end of each month. Easier said than done, but that is the trick with them. Like, they have such, these cards typically do have high interest rates because you're getting a reward. So if you're not going to do that, probably like not worth going into.
Can we talk about some of the other types of credit cards? I really want to give some time to 0% balance cards. They're cards that I've mentioned with friends over dinner because they haven't known about them. I feel like they could really benefit like by using one. So what are some of the ones out there now people should know about? And when should they be using them?
Yeah, so a balance transfer, as I mentioned earlier, like if you have a balance on a credit card, you're paying interest on that each month because you haven't cleared it each month. You might be paying the minimum amount, but obviously you're paying interest as well. It's a sensible idea to switch it, to move all of that money to a 0% balance transfer credit card, because it gives you some breathing space. Say, for example, the top deals at the minute offer 13 months without having to pay interest. But you'll still have to make the minimum repayment, and in fact, you should pay more. You should take your money, however long you have it, interest-free, divide it by that amount of months. And that's the payment that you should be making each month, so that by the time your period's ended, you've cleared that card and you won't be paying interest, but you'll still be saving money because you won't be paying you won't be paying the interest. So more of your money is going towards paying it off. So they can really help people that are currently paying interest on a credit card, basically. So we have 3 Best Buy credit cards. We've got NatWest and Royal Bank of Scotland balance transfer credit card. They're both offering 13 months. And when we do Best Buy cards, we take into account the fee. So we don't put a card as a Best Buy if there's a balance transfer fee, because many cards will charge a fee for you to move that balance across, but you might get perhaps 2 years, but then the fee you've paid, sort of, you have to balance the fee with like how long you're going to get. So for our Best Buys, we take both into account, and the longest you can get right now without paying any single fee is 13 months. And then a Barclays card has one as well, offering 12 months. So that's giving you a year, basically, to clear your debt. It might not be enough for some people, and if it's not, there might be other alternatives that you could look into instead. But if you think that you've got something and you could maybe like £1,000 on a credit card, I think you could easily clear that paying £100 a month and you're not paying any interest. But you will be charged interest on normal purchases on that card. You just won't be charged interest on the balance.
So useful, and I really hope that you can share this knowledge with anyone who might need one. And can we just touch on any other of the top cards that you'd like to mention? For some of the things we've already mentioned already, spending abroad, 0% spending.
Well, this week I have actually been looking into spending abroad, actually, because we have 3 cards that we recommend for spending abroad because they have no foreign fees. And that's the Halifax Clarity Card, Clarity Credit Card. We've definitely mentioned that on here before. And the Barclays Card Rewards Visa. And we have BIP as well. So they're really good for spending abroad. Again, you should pay that back in full each month, ideally. Like, just take that on your holiday, then pay that off. And then this week, I was like taking it a step further by looking at how you can get cash back on your holiday, but also not be charged a fee. So I was looking at the cards that do that. The Santander Edge credit card, which is available to Santander current account customers, it has no fees on spending abroad. You can also earn cash back. So you could earn cash back on your holiday spending, which I thought was like
paid to travel. I
like
it.
So I was trying to do like how you can make money on your holiday, and I was looking at the debit cards and the credit cards you could use. There wasn't really many others. NatWest did have a travel credit card which had no fees abroad, but it was really specific what you could earn the cash back on. It was only I think like traveling on with railways, ferries, cruise. It was like really specific, whereas the Santander was on like sort of everyday spending.
I mean, I think like from what you've been saying, it's really clear to hopefully a lot of people that the cards are for different uses. So for example, let's say you're asking what's the best credit card to get, and you hear about this travel one, you're like, is that the best one to get? Well, yeah, but for travel, right? So if I'm like kind of describing like the range of credit cards that I have at home right now, I say at home, in my wallet, in my pocket right now, I've got my everyday spend, which is an American Express. And that kind of gets me the rewards because I'm a bit of a nerd and I'm into that and I do that. But then a lot of shops don't accept American Express. So you have a backup card, which I think, I don't know, maybe it's a Virgin one. I use that just as like kind of my secondary card. And then I've got my travel card. So whenever I go traveling, I don't pay any fees on that. And then I get my cash back. So those are kind of my 3 everyday cards. So it's not just a one-off. You can kind of have that range that cover you for pretty much every scenario.
Yeah, you definitely don't need to have one. You can have more than one. If you just want one, maybe look for an all-rounder, like something that's going to suit your needs. Like if you haven't got any big purchases or any balances to move across, like I don't think you can go wrong with just a simple credit card to have that like extra protection. And to be honest, like if you go on our website, you can see, if you want to get one with your bank to keep things really straightforward, you can go on our website and like see how that provider stacks up for like customer service. Because obviously, we're surveying customers on like the how they deal with complaints, how clear the statement is to read. There's like several categories that we're rating. So if you do think like, oh, you know what, it's just going to be easier if I have one with my provider, that's fine. But maybe like check how it stacks up for customer service. Because if it's got really poor customer service, you definitely don't have to like stay with it.
We can definitely pop a few useful links in the description of today's show. And I feel like it's nearly time to wrap up. But before we do, is there anything else you'd like to mention or anything you'd like to stress from the mass we've covered today?
I mean, I have 3 golden rules with credit cards. Try and keep it nice and simple. Number 1, we've said it repeatedly. Please pay it off in full every single month. The interest is not worth any reward, special deal, bonus that they are offering you. And if you can't do that, I would recommend sticking with debit cards until you feel you can do that. And then kind of 2 tactics that will help you solve that first thing is number 1, I spoke about kind of utilization rate, which is the percentage of your entire limit that you use. Try and stick to around 30% if you can. That will make you look like a really responsible spender, and it will improve your credit score as well. And then the last one is kind of one that I've made up a little bit, which is if you can't buy it twice on your debit card, don't buy it once on your credit card. So that's just really making sure you've got a buffer. You really have that cash ready to pay it off in full every single month. Because if you don't have that and you think, oh, well, the money might be coming into my current account later in the month, you buy it and then something happens and it doesn't, and then you get stuck in the spiral of debt. So that's kind of my 3 golden rules with credit cards.
Yeah, definitely. If you're confused about which card is right for you, or like how your provider's stacking up for customer service, or even like the best deals of the month, we have all of these guides. We have separate guides. So best cashback credit cards, best 0% balance transfer credit card, best credit card for spending abroad. We have all of these separately. We look at these tables every month. So the first of each month, we go through all of the rates and we check the cards are still good enough to be in the tables. And we put all of the best deals together in another separate guide. So yeah, we have all of this advice on our website. So definitely take a look.
Yes, definitely take a look, and we'll get a few links in the description of today's show. Thank you both so much for joining us. Gabriel, if anyone wants to hear more from you, where can they find you online?
Just type into any social media platform, Gabriel, that money guy. Nice, simple, to the point. That's me, and you can check out some of the stuff I put online.
Oh, thank you. Thanks to you, Grace, too.
Thank you.
Well, a huge thank you again to Grace and Gabriel for coming on the show today, and to you for listening to this week's episode of the Which Money podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do hit subscribe to make sure you catch our new episodes as soon as they drop. For daily money news and advice, you can find us on social media at Which Money and online at which.co.uk/money. And we also have a free money newsletter which is delivered to your inbox every Monday. To sign up, visit which.co.uk/money newsletter. This episode of the Which Money podcast was written by me, Lucia Ariano, and produced and edited by James Rowe.
Like listening to podcasts just like this one from the team at Which? Well, we've got some good news. All our podcasts are now available to listen to on YouTube and YouTube Music. So whether you like listening to Get Answers, Which Shorts, or Which Money, all episodes can now be listened to directly on YouTube or through the YouTube Music app. To find them, just search for the podcast you'd like to listen to. YouTube's additional functionality also means that you can now read along with subtitles as you listen. Don't panic though, all Which podcasts are still available to listen to elsewhere too. So wherever you listen, we'll see you soon.